All right, and we're live. All right, this is Michael with Hooked on Football, coming at you live reaction here. Iowa State just wrapped up a loss in Athens, Ohio, at the University of Ohio. One of the uglier games I've watched so far this season. Iowa State loses 7-10 to Ohio on the road. Gonna break this one down for you guys real quick. Again, I expected an ugly game coming into this one. Steve and I talked on our podcast earlier this week. Over under. So the over under last Sunday started at 45, which I thought was insanely high. These teams had already played 5 games combined coming into today. Not one of those games had been over 45 points. So Vegas rarely gets it wrong, but they really, really, really missed on this one. It felt really predictable to me that this was going to be a low scoring affair. Um, and yeah, it was brutal. It was 0-0 at the half. Uh, Really, I think the big difference in the game comes down to Iowa State's offense is not good. We've known it's not good. It's been bad the first 2 weeks. It looked okay week 1. They played an FCS school, and you and I, it was serviceable, I suppose, last week against Iowa. Now Iowa has an elite defense, so it's tough to know what you can take from that. Um, but they looked really bad today. Now, some people are gonna make some excuses for them. Sorry, I was distracted. Missouri just beat K-State on a walk-off field goal. Uh Some people are gonna make excuses for him. Supposedly, game starts today. Rumor has it, Rocco, Jalen Noel, their top receiver. Rocco's their quarterback, of course. Had food poisoning all last night. We're up all night. Jalen Noel was on the sideline, but didn't actually play. I didn't notice him out there at all today. Um, Rocco did play all game. But supposedly, this also impacted a handful of other guys on the team. I don't think it matters. Yeah, there's no excuses to be made there. But really, the big difference to me in this game is Iowa State's offense turned the ball over twice. They committed one of Rocco's interceptions led directly to led to the only touchdown of the game. No, I'm sorry, Iowa State did score late, but it led to Ohio's touchdown. Basically, his interception, wide receiver fell down, interception. Ohio brings it back. I think they started with it like the Iowa State the 25, 30-yard line. They score, and that to me that was really the big difference in the game. I know Ohio also got a field goal there, but it felt a little bit like last week against Iowa. My prediction going into Iowa State is the team that makes the big mistake is going to lose, and last week it was Iowa State again. They made the big mistake against Iowa and they lost. They threw the pick six. So it just felt like more of the same today. Ohio's offense, I didn't think looked like anything special, um, but they didn't turn the ball over, and they only put up 10 points, and that's a credit to Iowa State's defense, who is really good. I stand by. I've said all season. I think Iowa State's defense is good. And I thought they looked really good today as well. But um, yeah, Ohio's defense didn't make any big mistakes. Iowa State's did. That's the game right there. Now, I will say another concerning trend for me with Iowa State here moving forward. Iowa State's inability to run the football is becoming a huge issue. So today, just to give you guys an idea, Iowa State ran the ball. The stats I'm looking at have them running the ball for 42 yards. Um, Rocco actually had 9 carries for 31 yards. He scrambled pretty decent today. Cartevious Norton, starting running back, had 9 carries for 15 yards. And then Abu Sama, who is the true freshman running back, had 3 carries for -5 yards. I mean, that's just a huge problem for Iowa State moving forward. They have to get that figured out. Rocco's an inexperienced true sophomore quarterback. This was just his 3rd start today. He's throwing to relatively inexperienced wide receivers. He's got an inexperienced wide receiver core he's throwing the ball to. They make lots of mistakes that seemingly just come from experience, drops, slip and fall, like on the one big interception today. Just lots of little mistakes like that. Point being, Iowa State, if they're gonna have to they can't rely on their pass game all season. And today, like, they had no choice. They couldn't run the ball, and I don't understand why you can't run the ball against a MAC school like Ohio. I get Ohio is one of the better MAC schools, but it's inexcusable. You have to be able to run the football against a school like this. So the fact they couldn't run the football meant they had to put the ball in the air, and that's not gonna be Iowa State's strength this year. Rocco is not ready. I mean, this he wasn't supposed to be starting, to be fair. I mean, this was supposed to be Hunter Decker's team again this year. So, he wasn't really expected to have to perform yet. Um, but it's just Iowa State's not gonna win football games if they have to put the ball in the air like this. Like I said, I think Rocco's gonna get better. That second to last drive, the last drive today, throw kind of a fluke interception, right? Bounces off the guy's hands, goes back, defensive tackle catches it. That's a little bit of a fluke to me. Um, the second to last possession, I did like what Iowa State did. They got really aggressive. They went right down the field. Rocco made a really nice touchdown pass there, but I just we got to be able to offset it. Iowa State has to be able to run the football, and right now they can't. They can't run the football. That's a massive problem for this offense. And if they can't figure that out, this is going to be a really, really long season for Iowa State. Um, just yeah, and I guess next week Iowa State plays Oklahoma State in Ames. I don't know exactly what Oklahoma State is sitting at for a record at the moment, but that's looking like a tough game for Iowa State. Iowa State could very easily come out of the gates 1-3. So they beat FCS, UNI, um, lost to Iowa, lose to Ohio today, and very well could lose to Oklahoma State next Saturday. One thing I was going to pull up really quick, and then I'm going to run through Iowa State's schedule real fast, just to give you an idea of what they're looking at the rest of the way. The big controversy is going to be the Iowa State field goal, right? Kind of that last field goal they kicked, they called it no good, obviously. It looked like it kind of went over the upright. Maybe it was just a shade to the outside. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of Iowa State fans will say Iowa State got screwed again. Iowa State has been the victim of some bad calls over the years, but I think that's started to develop a bit of a victim complex amongst some of the fan base. Uh, yeah, was it a bad? I don't. Apparently, it's not a reviewable call. They said it on the broadcast. Apparently, you can't review field goals like that. You can't. You just can't make the excuse though. If you're Iowa State, you're a Big 12 school, you just can't put yourself in a situation where you're relying on field goals like that. They also chunked the field goal early in the first half. So technically, Iowa State misses 2 field goals. Giving those 2 field goals back, hey, there's 13 points. Now Ohio did also miss a really bad field goal in the first half too. So in theory, if everything goes perfect, everyone capitalizes on their scoring opportunities when it comes to field goals. That was a 13-13 game going to overtime. So yeah, that was a really close call on the upright. But come on, if you're holding on to that and you're saying, Iowa State got screwed at Ohio, I mean, that's embarrassing. Iowa State shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. It's just bad. Bad loss all around. Um, I'd venture to say perhaps the worst loss of the Matt Campbell era. Now, again, there's a lot of weird things working there. The bad luck with gambling probe to start the season. He's got a lot of guys out this year. Supposedly there's food poisoning overnight. That doesn't help anything, but it's just a bad loss on the road at a MAC school like that. All right, so let's do a quick look ahead for Iowa State, what they have left this year. So again, they're 1-2 at the moment. They lost to UNI, I'm sorry, they beat UNI. Lost to Iowa last week, lose to Ohio this week. They're at home against Oklahoma State next week. It's gonna be a tough one. Can Matt Campbell rally the troops? I hope so, and here's why I hope so. If they lose to Oklahoma State at home next week, they are on the road at Oklahoma the following week. That would appear to be a guaranteed loss at this point. So if you lose to Oklahoma State at home next week, now you're looking at 1-4 in your first 5 games. Following Oklahoma, they come home against TCU. That's looking like a really tall task to beat that TCU team. I know TCU doesn't play great defense, but they do play really good offense. Iowa State's going to have to score some points. I don't know if they can do that. Anyway, so they get TCU at home. Week after that, they go to Cincinnati. That's looking like it could be a challenging game. They get a bye week. Then they come back, go to Baylor, get Kansas at home, at BYU, Texas at home, at K-State to finish. After the Iowa game last week, I looked at Iowa State's schedule and I said, maybe they get the 6 wins. If Matt Campbell can get the absolute most out of this team, maybe they can squeak out 6 wins somewhere in the Big 12. It feels like there's a lot of teams in the middle of the Big 12 that are just going to be middle of the pack type teams. Uh, I don't know anymore. And in fact, no, it's not I don't know. I'm really, really doubtful at this point this team gets to 6 wins. If this team somehow turns it around and gets to 6 wins, Matt Campbell should get, like, coach of the year, because it's not a great team. I think it's a really good defense. I really do think Iowa State has a strong defense. I think special teams are improved outside of field goal kicking, which is a big component of special teams, but obviously there's huge issues there with the kicker. But fantastic punter, kick return, punt return, all that type of stuff looks fine. But yeah, I mean, I had for Iowa State to get to 6 wins, I had Ohio as a definite win. So that's 2 wins, and I was thinking maybe you find 4 wins in the Big 12 schedule, but now you gotta find 5 wins in that Big 10 schedule, or I'm sorry, Big 12 schedule. Um, yeah, Iowa State's basically gotta finish 5 and 4 in Big 12 play if they wanna go to a bowl game, and I don't like it. You gotta finish 5 and 4, and that's assuming you have 3 losses on the schedule at K-State, Texas, and Oklahoma. So basically, you got to go 5-1 against Oklahoma State, TCU, Cincinnati, Baylor, Kansas, BYU. Or yeah, I guess those schools right there. That seems like a really tall task to me, based off what we've seen so far out of Iowa State. But yeah, so there we go. That's kind of me just spilling my thoughts here real quick after the game. Um, like I said, it was brutal. It was ugly. The Iowa State offense has a lot of problems that they need to sort out. Um, one positive in this one is if you got it on the under, like I said last Sunday, that under started at 45 points. I think around halftime when it was 0-0 today, it was sitting at 20.5 points. I texted a group chat that I'm in that I still like the under, and it did stay under 20.5. So yeah, you bet the under. Congrats. That was a big win. That seemed really obvious. I don't know how Vegas took such a big L there on that under for that game. Not that that had a ton of eyes on it. But yeah, that's the only positive. Or I guess if you're an Ohio fan, I don't know. I don't know how many Ohio fans are out there, but I guess if you're an Ohio fan, you probably feel pretty good right now. But yeah, if you're an Iowa State fan, hopefully you had the under and at least you made some money. But outside of that, really, really rough day. Like I said, since Matt Campbell's come to Ames, it feels like he's been able to do away with these types of really ugly losses. These types of losses, I mean, if you're an Iowa State fan and you think back over the years prior to Matt Campbell, this has just happened, right? Like, if you're an Iowa State fan, like, you knew week to week, Iowa State could go on the road and lose to anybody. Iowa State could lose to anybody at home. But since Matt Campbell came to town, that's just not been a thing. These are the types of games that he's always found a way to win, and obviously not today. Yeah, one last thing I'll throw in there. Iowa State, I looked up the score last year. Iowa State beat Ohio. I was actually at the game in Ames. They won by like 30 points or something like that last year. So uh, again, I know Iowa State's got a lot of new guys on the team this year, a lot of adversity. Some of the starters are supposed to come back. But man, to go from a 30-point win at home against this Ohio team last year to 3-point loss on the road at Ohio this year, really rough. It's really rough, and it's looking more and more like this is going to be. Iowa State won 3 games last year, 4 games last year. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was 3 or 4, and it's looking like it's potentially could be even worse. I mean, when you go through that Big 12 schedule, there isn't another game left on the schedule. It's going to be guaranteed for this Cyclone team. So it's going to be a fight the rest of the year. There are some young guys getting reps out there. That's what you have to lean on if you're an Iowa State fan. Is young guys getting reps. This is going to help them, as we look ahead. But I think this is going to be a long season. So yeah, appreciate anyone that tuned in here. Let us know if you have any thoughts on this Ohio Iowa State game. If you suffered through the whole thing, feel free to leave a comment, leave your thoughts. But otherwise, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be watching games all day today. Might come at you guys with another instant reaction here later. Then Steve and I will try to have a podcast out here before long, recapping some of the action. So appreciate everyone listening.